HBR's 10 Must-Reads 2023, The Definitive Management Ideas of the Year from Harvard Business Review, brings together a curated collection of cutting-edge insights and essential thinking from leading minds in business and management. The volume is structured to address the most pressing challenges and opportunities facing organizations today, touching on leadership, strategy, innovation, organizational behavior, and inclusion. Each article functions as a standalone yet collectively contributes to a cohesive narrative of modern business practices in a time of rapid change. The overarching theme of this edition revolves around navigating uncertainty with clarity and integrity. In a world marked by volatility, digital acceleration, shifting workforce expectations, and growing calls for sustainability and equity, the collection champions a more conscious, adaptive, and evidence-based approach to leadership. Authors urge leaders to abandon rigid structures and embrace complexity. Not as a threat but as a chance to experiment, learn, and evolve continuously. One standout article challenges traditional views of innovation by arguing that true innovation doesn't just come from brainstorming or top-down mandates. Instead, it often emerges from structured systems that support continuous learning and calculated risk-taking. Innovation, the author explains, flourishes when companies design for curiosity, when they actively encourage inquiry, tolerate ambiguity, and make space for failure as a learning mechanism rather than a reputational risk. Another key essay delves into ethical leadership and trust, highlighting how deeply interwoven integrity is with organizational resilience. In an era when customers and employees alike hold companies to higher moral standards, trust becomes a tangible business asset. The author encourages leaders to cultivate transparency and make decisions through the lens of long-term impact rather than short-term metrics. Ethical lapses, even if profitable in the short run, corrode credibility and internal morale. A particularly relevant contribution deals with mental health and emotional well-being in the workplace. Rather than treating burnout and stress as isolated personal problems, the piece calls for systemic change in how organizations define productivity and support employees. It emphasizes the role of empathetic leadership in creating environments that are not only high-performing but also psychologically sustainable. Leaders are urged to model balance themselves and destigmatize mental health struggles openly. On the topic of strategic planning, another article redefines what it means to craft a winning strategy in a fluid environment. Rather than relying on annual plans that quickly become obsolete, the essay suggests adopting a more dynamic approach, combining real-time data, cross-functional collaboration, and rapid feedback loops. Strategy becomes less about predicting the future and more about adapting intelligently to it. The collection also explores the evolving nature of corporate purpose. One essay critiques the superficial adoption of purpose statements that don't translate into meaningful action. Instead, it argues that purpose should serve as a North Star embedded into decision-making, culture, and customer engagement. Companies that genuinely live their values, the author notes, inspire deeper loyalty from stakeholders and attract talent aligned with their mission. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, remains a central concern. One powerful piece unpacks the persistent gap between DEI initiatives and actual outcomes. The author contends that while many organizations talk about equity, few are willing to address the power dynamics and systemic biases that underpin inequality. Real change, the article argues, begins with honest self-assessment, uncomfortable conversations, and redistributing decision-making power. Inclusion isn't a program, it's a daily leadership practice. Another article explores hybrid work and the future of collaboration. It goes beyond logistics to explore how distributed teams can still feel cohesive and creative. The essay encourages leaders to prioritize intentional communication, build in moments of spontaneity, and design digital workspaces that foster trust and collaboration. Rather than seeing remote work as a compromise, it's reframed as a canvas for reimagining team dynamics. The volume also includes a compelling exploration of what it means to be a learning organization. The author proposes that companies must move beyond static training programs and instead develop systems where learning is embedded in the flow of work. Knowledge sharing, peer feedback, and reflective practice are positioned as cornerstones of a resilient, agile workforce. Leaders are called to become learners themselves, modeling intellectual humility and openness. Another contribution interrogates the role of power in management. It examines how authority is exercised, often unconsciously, and how power structures can either enable growth or stifle it. The author encourages managers to be mindful of how they wield influence and to cultivate leadership as service, not dominance. Recognizing the unseen ways power flows through an organization can unlock more equitable and effective practices. In one particularly nuanced article, the relationship between technology and human behavior is explored through the lens of algorithmic bias and AI decision-making. While digital tools promise efficiency, the essay warns of the ethical pitfalls when automation is deployed without critical oversight. Leaders are advised to ensure that technology supports human values rather than overrides them, integrating diverse perspectives into tech development and governance. Finally, the collection culminates in a forward-looking piece on navigating polarizing times. With societal tensions spilling into the workplace, the article makes a case for moral courage and constructive dialogue. Leaders are urged to take principled stands without becoming performative, to listen deeply while upholding core values. Silence in moments of injustice, the author warns, is itself a political act. Together, these 10 essays form a mosaic of the most important ideas shaping modern leadership and organizational life. The collection does not offer easy answers, but rather cultivates the kind of critical thinking and emotional intelligence required in today's complex business landscape. It invites readers to sit with paradoxes, challenge their assumptions, and move toward more human-centered, courageous leadership.